So, a few weeks ago, was it a few weeks? I don't know, time is so irrelevant when you're an eldritch monster in human form. Anyway, I think it was a few weeks ago. This article came out called, quote, "Dear Hollywood, please stop making musicals with people who can't sing." And like the good musical theater fan that I am, I read the article and I nodded my head and I mm-hmmed at all the right places. And then I threw the internet into a garbage fire because if this is what we're getting, we don't deserve the internet anymore. This is Professional Opinion, and today's topic will be, no, musicals do not have to have great or even good singers. You absolute goobs. So the Mary Sue article in question is just like a really long rant that hits like the following points. I want my singers to sing good. Hugh Jackman's a good singer. The Disney princesses sing good. Hey, remember Russell Crowe? Remember that super topical jab at Russell Crowe from 2013 when he was a bad singer? Topical, am I right? And what bothers me the most about this article is that it was widely shared by people who like clearly agreed with the title but hadn't read the actual content. And I use the word content loosely because it's not really content, like it's not supported by anything. It's just like 4 or 5 paragraphs where the writer is like, sing good, singers. I know sing good. It's just a rant. I mean, and it went viral. It was like a bona fide internet hit. I even saw it on Reddit, which was kind of amazing to me because musicals are usually more of like a girly thing, and Reddit doesn't really like to talk about girly things because girls won't talk to them. Sorry, I'm getting ranty, and I promised myself I wouldn't. So here is like my real theoretical defense of why bad singers are actually good for musicals. I know I said that the worst part about this article was the fact that people shared it without having read it, but the real issue that I have with this article is its like clear lack of film knowledge, much less musical theater knowledge. And this article is by no means the biggest culprit. I hear this from people all the time. I want musical singers to sound good. Harumph. When people say that, what they're communicating, at least to me, is that they clearly haven't seen very many movie musicals. Their favorite is probably like not older than 2000, and if it is, it's probably like Sound of Music, which clearly they weren't watching very closely. As a matter of fact, let's look at some historical movie musicals. In historic movie musicals, there are 2 types of bad singers. Actually, there are 3. First type is the actress who is dubbed because she can't sing. I don't really count this one in this discussion because she is dubbed, so you are meant to think she's a good singer. You're meant to understand that the character at least is a good singer, so it doesn't really enter into this discussion because the film expects you to buy into the reality that she can sing well. But the other 2 types are generally more common or more at least deliberate in classic movie musicals. You have your bad singer who is doing like an affected voice, they're doing an affectation, and you have your actual bad singer. They aren't actually the same thing, and they communicate 2 different things in the world of the story, and that's something that we're going to take a look at. First, vocal affectation. The great thing about singing as a storytelling element is that it can reveal so much to us about a character, and these Golden Age musicals do that better than just about anyone. Take Miss Adelaide in Guys and Dolls.
In other words, just from waiting around for that plain little band of gold, a person could develop a cold.
That nasally accented tone tells us so many things about her. That she's sick, she's a little annoying, which might explain why Nathan isn't in a kind of a hurry to get married to her. She demands attention, etc. The same follows for her hot box girls, who sing with that nasal affectation, which defines their cabaret as the sort of lower class place where gangsters and gamblers would hang out.
Talk to me, pretty.
You can also look at Bert in Mary Poppins.
Jim, Jiminy, Jim, Jiminy, Jim, Jim, Chiroo. I draws what I likes, and I likes what I drew.
His vocal affectation, both the terrible Cockney accent and the boisterous but imperfect way that Dick Van Dyke sings tells us plenty about him. That he's poor, he's lower class, he's unlearned, untrained, but he sings anyway and enjoys his singing, qualities that are both admirable and endearing. In this way, a bad singing voice or a fake bad singing voice can give audience tons of expository information and background on a character without ever having to write an expository line of dialogue, like, oh, that Adelaide's annoying, or that Bert's a lovable scamp, isn't he? When good or even average singers take on the guise of bad singing, they are clearly using music to purposefully communicate character. Alternatively, the classic musicals also had mediocre or even bad singers. Let's look at The Sound of Music, for example. Captain Von Trapp has like a nice enough voice, but today I feel like if he showed up in a movie musical singing like that, everyone would say, Christopher Plummer can't sing. Why didn't they cast a guy who can sing? You know who can sing? That Hugh Jackman. Why didn't they get Hugh Jackman for the role?
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
Or to carry through with the Guys and Dolls example, Marlon Brando could not sing.
Those eyes are the eyes of a woman in love.
I have a soft spot in my heart for this role because Marlon Brando is super dreamy in it, and he plays Sky Masterson in like this really beautiful and compelling way, and he's my favorite Sky Masterson. Sorry, Ewan McGregor. But we just have to face it. He's not a great singer. They had to lower the key of Luck Be a Lady and I'll Know because he couldn't hit any of the notes, and he could barely hit the notes that he ended up being given. But, and hear me out because it's basically the thesis of this entire video, it's okay that they aren't great singers. It's okay that they aren't good singers. In fact, it might be better that they aren't. Roles like Captain Von Trapp in Sound of Music and Sky Masterson in Guys and Dolls are particularly exciting to me in this context because it speaks to the current moment that we're experiencing. We have a glut of films that have mediocre and bad singers in them, but that's okay. I promise it's okay, because having Sky Masterson and Captain Von Trapp be bad singers tells us so much more about their characters and enriches our understanding of them. Singing is a reflection of the soul, and the way that they sing informs us, intentionally or unintentionally, of who these characters are. The fact that Sky Masterson can barely hit the high notes in a love song where he's trying to swindle a girl tells me so much more about his character than if he was a perfect singer. His lack of confidence on romantic highs tells me that he's not telling the truth, that he's pretending, that he's faking it. And that makes his character's journey from uncertain lover to gambler desperately praying to win her back a million times more delightful. And I'd like to prove this thesis by looking at bad singing in modern practice. We can see this in modern practice by comparing one of my favorite movies of all time to its theatrical counterpart.
You makes the front page and man you is major news.
In 1992, Kenny Ortega's landmark masterpiece Newsies was released to rapturous silence and panning by critics, but I love it. It's a musical inspired by the real-life newsboy strike of 1899, where a rapscallion named Jack Kelly leads a strike against the newspaper giants of the day and learns about love and friendship along the way. God, it's so beautiful. And while I like the stage adaptation of the film, I actually think the film is a better piece of storytelling because it better conveys the heart of the newsboys' strike itself. And it does so in two ways. One, through choreography. When directing the 1992 vehicle, Kenny Ortega said that he chose street dancing as the main source of inspiration for the film's choreography because these kids were scrappy, upstart, and had to teach themselves everything they knew. They were kids of the 1899 streets, so he wanted to incorporate contemporary street dancing into the film's choreography to reflect that. Christopher Gattelli, on the other hand, chose ballet as the stage show's choreographic inspiration because newsies are proud of what they do, they're good at what they do, like ballet dancers. Yeah, sorry, as a storytelling device and a means of conveying character, Kenny Ortega wins this one hands down. And in the same way, the singers in the 1992 film give so much more information about their characters than the stage production. I know Christian Bale is humiliated by Newsies and refuses to talk about it, but I would much rather listen to his version of any of the songs any day of the week than the stage production. I would listen to any of the film songs over the stage production for one reason and one reason alone. They are imperfect. The film's Jack Kelly is scrappy and underprivileged and not book smart or trained in any capacity, and the way that he sings reflects that.
If the life don't seem to suit ya, how about a change of scene? Far from the lousy headlines and the deadlines in between.
By the same token, Jeremy Jordan's character in Newsies on Broadway is scrappy, underprivileged, not learned, whatever.
There's change coming once and for all. You makes the front page and then you is major news.
But his singing doesn't tell us that. His singing is perfect and beautiful and melodic, nice to listen to, but tells me nothing about the character. Everything I know about Jack Kelly comes from the expository dialogue. The singing tells me nothing about him. Even the group numbers give audiences more to work with. The harmonies in the film are simple but effective, and the sort of singing that indicates camaraderie and friendship, while the stage version is overproduced and too perfect and too complicated, the product of too much practice and too much money, which completely flies in the face of everything the story of Newsies stands for. Before you Broadway nerds start getting at me in the comments, I understand that this is by very virtue of the way that film and theater are different. Tickets for Broadway shows are incredibly expensive, so people want to see amazing singers and dancers, which means that they have to sacrifice better storytelling to make sure audiences are satisfied with their $137 rear mezzanine ticket. But Hollywood doesn't have to do that. By the very virtue of it costing $13 versus $137, Hollywood can take a chance on better storytelling. Be 1992 Newsies, Hollywood. Don't be 2012 Newsies. We actually see this pretty often in pop music. When you think of an album as basically like a collection of mini plays or mini stories, each song has a character who is singing from a defined point of view, which means that the way you produce that song and the way it conveys its message adds to the narrative being spelled out lyrically. If you compare Lady Gaga's Judas with something like You and I off the same album,
We got a whole lot of money, but we still pay rent. 'Cause you can't buy a house in heaven.
you'll notice that Judas, which is about broken love and manipulation, is itself broken sounding and manipulated. This is all for the express purpose of reflecting and underlining the song's thematic message. You and I, on the other hand, at least for a Lady Gaga song, is fairly simple. It's just a big 11 o'clock romantic number which focuses on her natural voice and lyricism because it's about genuine love and a return to a simpler past. They're both good songs, of course, but they both use the stylistic choices to help the listener understand what the song is trying to say. In this way, the music from 2012 Newsies is good. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, most of the singing is technically flawless. But unlike the overproduced and practically perfect Judas, the perfection of 2012's Newsies informs us of nothing except that Jeremy Jordan can belt and the ensemble can maintain tricky harmonies. By being better than the film version, the 2012 Newsies actually fails and becomes worse than the original film because it doesn't embrace the complete musical storytelling aspects of musical theater. And if you really want to get into it, I'd encourage any musical theater nerds out there to listen and compare the two cast recordings of a show called Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. Between the many off-Broadway productions and the final Broadway production of Great Comet, the lead, Pierre, was recast, meaning that the rough singing, imperfect, and almost always drunk-sounding Dave Malloy
do you struggle to?
Was replaced with the voice of an angel, Josh Groban.
too.
Groban was like a wonderful Pierre, but in losing Malloy's vocal tone and uncertainty, something was definitely lost in the character of Pierre, the merry feasting crank who drinks and thinks too much. All of this is to say that just because something is technically more perfect doesn't mean that it's better, and in fact, being more perfect can actually take away from the story and the message that one is trying to convey. Now back to the article. The article in question mentions two bad singers in particular, Emma Watson and Russell Crowe. And in light of the defense that I made earlier about the bad singer, I actually agree with this author that Emma Watson should not have been cast as Belle.
But he was mean and he was coarse and unrefined, and now he's dear and so unsure. I wonder why I didn't see it there before.
There is no textually supported reason why Belle would be a bad singer. There's no character flaw or defect or quirk that would mean that she would have a bad or mediocre voice. She's an educated, warm, beautiful soul at the center of the story. She should sing beautifully. It should be a reflection of who she is inside. The only defense I can think of why Belle would be a poor singer would be just like, a princess can be anyone. Anyone can be a princess. You don't have to sing good, but it's so weak to me that I did it in that voice, the voice that I do when I make fun of things, so clearly it's not a very good defense. As for Javert,
he knows his way in the dark. Mine is the way of the Lord. Those who follow the path of the righteous shall have their reward.
I think one of the most fascinating things about the entire exercise that was the Les Mis movie was actually the way that Russell Crowe talked about taking singing lessons. He talked in interviews about like learning the technicality of singing, but you can see on screen that his soul isn't in it. He's not embraced music as an expression of the spirit, but rather as a technical exercise he has to complete to get to the next scene. He's so focused on hitting the right notes that he's forgotten why the notes are there, what they're meant to communicate. He's forgotten what's really important about singing in a musical, and that's storytelling. And to me, that's kind of Javert's character in a nutshell. Russell Crowe's wooden, technically correct, but soulfully broken singing is exactly who Javert is. Someone who is obsessed with rightness and correctness while losing goodness. And for that reason, I will always defend Russell Crowe as Javert. I will. I'll do it. Because to me, it makes sense. He's a wooden and uncomfortable singer because Javert is a wooden and uncomfortable man who can't let his soul be free because he's so concerned with the letter of the law, with the rules, with correctness, with technicality. Now, I was one of those musical theater nerds who hated La La Land. But one thing they got right was that Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling can't sing or dance.
The lights are turning on.
In these big free unit musicals that would come to be known as like the golden age of Hollywood, the singers and dancers were great. Your Gene Kellys, your Judy Garlands, because they were expressionistic. In the world of the story, the characters are good singers and dancers because the love story at the centers of the films made the characters feel like the world's best singers and dancers. The film was communicating to its audience that being in love makes you feel like a brilliant singer and makes you feel like doing grand, sweeping ballet numbers. What La La Land gets right is that Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling's characters, whose names I do not know because I'll never watch it again as long as I live, so help me God, they aren't great singers and dancers because the love story that they live out in the film's narrative is a good love story, but it's not these characters' best love story. The love that they share is one worth singing and dancing over, but it's not a love story that makes them Gene Kelly and Judy Garland good. I even understand casting Pierce Brosnan in Mamma Mia.
When you're young, though I try, how can I carry on?
No, he's not a good singer, and he and Meryl's characters are living out their best love story. But the entire heart of Mamma Mia is about finding joy in the imperfection, about finding love in imperfect people. So the fact that Pierce Brosnan is trying so hard at singing and failing so miserably, and yet is still loved by Meryl's character is not only precious, but textually correct. I could do this all day. Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge. Her voice is weak because she's sick and because her belief in love is weak, and it gets stronger as the movie goes on. Next, Daniel Day-Lewis in 9. His voice is bad because it reflects that he is a total asshole. Next, Tom Cruise and the entire cast is really auto-tuned in Rock of Ages because it's showing how exploitative and phony 1980s LA culture really was. If you have a bad singing choice you want me to defend, put it below in the comments, and I'll fight you. Go ahead.
This is a side note. I don't mean like I'll fight you. I just mean like I'll tell you why it's actually a good choice. Thank you. Ba 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 ba.
So, in conclusion,
Dear Hollywood, you have a rich history of using music to tell and sell a story. Music and the people who sing them can enrich and enhance our understanding of narrative and theme, so don't cave and make everyone sound the same. Not only does hiring the perfect cast of perfect singers rob you of so many great storytelling opportunities, but it's boring. In Hollywood, you're already boring enough. Love, Elise.
P.S. Hollywood, while I have you here, please buy my script for the movie musical of Parade. It would be directed by the Coen brothers, and it would star Paul Dano as Leo Frank, and Sterling K. Brown as Jim Conley, and Bryce Dallas Howard as Lucille. No, please!
Hi everyone! Please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you liked the video. If you have a guilty pleasure casting choice or want me to defend a bad singer casting choice, please put it in the comments below, and I promise to get back to every single comment. A huge shout out to my patrons, especially my newest and highest donor, Lindsay Tobias. If you like my work and want to join the community, please click the Patreon link in the description for some cool stuff. I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time.